not one person can be left out of the conversation. And I say that as someone, you can see on the map behind me, every pin in that map is a place where I've personally written and passed a law that added LGBTQ and often disability and veterans to the definition of minority, so that they have access to economic development, to non-discrimination programs, to all of these things that were not previously open to them. And what I learned in that was people who don't live those experiences are not in the room. And it's partially because the people who invite the speakers to the table to help shape policy or testify or whatever it might be don't know them. So it's incumbent on, again, I think the privilege of privilege is being able to be in that room and then say, by the way, who's not here? I say I've got a closet full of fabulous sport coats, but each one of them has really long coattails, because any room I go into should be one that I am accompanied by anyone who was not invited. And on a national level, that has to happen. We cannot keep talking about things like climate change in the abstract. We have to bring in the people who are going to be the most affected by it. Low income, minority Americans who live on coastlines, who do not have the ability, as they're telling people, oh, we'll give you a tax credit to pick up and move inland. They cannot do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the same is true for education and for gun reform. You're coming up with solutions that are predicated on people having the means and resources to do it for themselves. They're just trying to keep the lights on and food on their table and their kids in school and their kids safe. We, those in any position of authority, have to do whatever we can for them to make sure that the policies are accessible and equitable. And even looking at COVID, it took the leadership of LGBT and Black and Hispanic and immigrant and women's groups to say, you're not getting this to the people who need it because you didn't invite them to talk to them about how. So we, the community leaders, are going to step in and do what we can. Yeah, well, like I said, so look at just consumers. 900 in the U.S. alone, it's $917 billion in consumer power. So think about how you can use that to make a difference. As I'm sure everyone knows, not all chicken nuggets taste the same. Some taste like they hate you. So why would you give that certain company your money? And now look what's happening just this week. Stonewall, the world famous bar in New York City, where really the modern movement began, said they're banning Anheuser-Busch products. There will be no Bud Light, no Stella, none of those beers this month for Pride, because they have a long history of supporting anti-LGBTQ candidates and causes. So with a little bit of research, we can all do that in our own lives. You could check the HRC Corporate Equality Index. You can look at the NGLCC to see what companies are investing in our community's businesses. You can put money where your mouth is, literally when you're eating. You could put it where your pillow is when you're sleeping in a hotel, when you're flying, when you're doing anything, and it's at scale, whether it's the cup of coffee, from the big chain store on the corner, or the local vendor who might, if you look through your local organization, might be LGBT or woman or Black owned or Indigenous owned, et cetera. So putting money back into the system that we control matters, especially when there's stats out there that upwards of 70% of all purchasing decisions by our community and our allies is influenced by what we know about a company's stance on LGBTQ issues. Mm-hmm. And that's similar at scale for other minority groups. They do the same for women and people of color, et cetera. So the consumer implications are vast, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to our GDP impact. I said there's 1.4 million LGBT business owners in the United States, and they're not just, I joke, they're not just mom and pop shops on Main Street. These are small businesses. They're everything from cookie shops and florists to nuclear defense companies who have major government contracts. And everything, last year we helped a trans woman-owned construction company score a $20 million building project. That sentence couldn't have left my mouth 5 years ago. So that's what we're doing, shattering stereotypes and elevating people in industries where they've always been to the place of visibility that's going to only encourage more. So that's the economic benefits are unbelievable. And then of course, everything that we know about visibility comes along with that. When you demonstrate inclusion, you get better talent. You get people who want to work for you because they know I'll be taken care of. My family will be taken care of. I can talk about, I won't have to tiptoe around the water cooler saying, oh, my girlfriend and I had a party this weekend. Oh, she had to go back to Canada. I'm sorry you didn't meet her. We don't have to do that silly nonsense we used to have to do for decades. We can be ourselves. And we all know when you let someone be themselves at work and expose them to other cultures and other ways of life, everyone gets richer. We take, and for that particular individual, as you might be experiencing, my friend, taking that lead vest off lets you breathe. And when you can breathe better, you work harder because you're being more true to yourself. Well, first and foremost, you can't fix what you don't know. You have to, even if it's aggregated and anonymized data, you have to survey your people. You have to know, how are they feeling? How comfortable are they? Do you even have a sense of the numbers of LGBTQ or other intersections in your workplace? Do you know what your workforce is? And then furthermore, do you know what your marketplace is? Do you know what your consumer network is? Have you done the time to really value that? 10 years ago, in just the LGBT context, you could slap a rainbow on a bottle and say, look, we are friendly. Now we expect more. And I think especially after COVID and after Black Lives Matter and after the movements we've celebrated, we are experiencing a moment where people are looking for tangible outcomes. Like, we don't want to just see your CEO put out a statement on Juneteenth, for example, which is we're celebrating right now in the United States for the first time nationally. We want to see that not only are you putting out the statement, your company is committing to adding, equal proportions of race and gender to your board, maybe even a few LGBTQ seats, someone with disabilities, et cetera, that you're going to write that check, that you're going to, especially I see a lot of leadership on that in the pharma industry right now. And I think it's a really great replicable model that we saw that access to COVID was not equitable, partially because the clinical trials were not equitable and the distributions models were not equitable. They were based on systems that didn't benefit enough of the people who needed it most. So making sure that you are inviting those experts in, that you are listening to what your own people tell you they want and need to succeed really matters, and that you're doing it authentically in a way that does have a tangible impact on the communities you serve. We can smell a rat. To sum it up, we know when someone's just pinkwashing or whitewashing or any other kind of washing, because we're smart enough now. We know what to look for. So show us that impact. And like I said, pharma didn't just say, we are here to take care of America. We are going to give $1 billion in profits to research that benefits Black healthcare equity, because you know what? We dropped that ball. That's how you make a difference during Black Lives Matter as a healthcare industry. Now let's see energy step up and do the same thing about the environment, and housing industry do the same thing for equitable housing. So that's how we do it. Is you first have to survey, you have to analyze, and you have to get to work. And and frankly, and this is maybe a bit more personal, but I am so tired of everyone saying we need to have the tough conversation. We have been having the tough conversation for 2 decades. My God, so many of my colleagues, started the tough conversations decades ago. We're done. We have the data. We have we know where the shoe in the cog is that we need to pull out to keep the wheels turning. Pull it out and get to work. Fix things. So every extra panel discussion we have on these topics is one more day. Yes, it inspires people to know more and be involved, but if that's not being immediately followed up by action, it's just a delay. Mm-hmm. We don't have time for delays. Mm-hmm. Lives and livelihoods are on the line. Do not be silent. Silence, as we said throughout the AIDS epidemic, silence equals death. If you see something inappropriate, offensive, hurtful, say something. Report it. Comment if you can safely. And also know there are people out there who just want to do nothing but instigate and will not be moved. But you have to try. And more importantly, be the counter to that. Light always outshines darkness, always. If you see hate, write a post that celebrates your friend who's under attack, or the community that is under attack. And you don't, trust me, anyone who has the internet or cable knows how to find bad news. Amplify some good. Let people know that it's not all bad. It's one of the things that I love so much about working in the LGBT space is, for every story out there about they're coming for our rights, they're coming to attack our children and our trans brothers and sisters, we can then say, yes, and despite that, look at this success. Look at this openly gay member of a president's cabinet. Look at. We need more of that. Be that beacon of light that somebody else needed. And even on social, the amount of texts and emails that I get from particularly young people, high school and college age university students, who write me and say, I wish I could vote for you. I don't live where you live, but I see you online and you say the things I always want to say out loud, but it's not safe where I live. Thanks for that. You've shown me that it's worth, getting yelled at by trolls to do the right thing. And that's who I do it for. And that's, I think, what all of us really want to be doing it for. So be that light. I end every conversation I ever have with student groups and corporate groups with the same quote, the Margaret Mead quote: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world, because it's the only thing that ever has." And each and every one of us can be one of those thoughtful, committed citizens. So do that. Change the world in your own little way. You could do it 140 characters at a time.